Without a doubt, Mary Jane Watson is Spider-Man's most iconic love interest, but after getting married to Peter in the 80s, Marvel Comics instantly regretted the decision. So, they sold their marriage to the devil in 2007 to save Aunt May's life. And for the following 2 decades, Marvel has had no idea of what to do with her. Every single attempt to fix Mary Jane has made her a worse and worse character. And now she's Venom, which is a complete betrayal of her character. Hello and welcome to Comic Drake, where I talk about comic books, so my name is Drake. Let's talk about it. But before we get too far into things, I want to give a quick thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Arena Club. Because last year when I went to the CGC to learn about the behind the scenes of grading comics, I also got interested in graded trading cards. And Arena Club slab packs are an interesting idea. What if you took the excitement of booster packs, but with graded cards? Transparency is the name of the game, so before you put down any money, you can see exactly what cards are available along with the likelihood of pulling them. And here is why I love these guys, because once you pull your card, you can either have it shipped to you or you can sell it on their digital marketplace. But if you don't want to shop around for a buyer, then Arena Club gives you an instant offer based on the estimated fair market value. That's exactly what I did for this special Charizard only pack that I opened. And Arena Club has promised to start doing 2 of these special themed drops every week. Regardless of if you're buying, selling, trading, or grading cards, Arena Club is the safest and most trusted name in the game for a reason. And if you want to see for yourself, then you can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/comicdrake and using my code ComicDrake. Once again, big thank you to Arena Club for sponsoring the video, but now let's get back to it. Ever since her debut in 1966, Mary Jane Watson had a clear role in the Spider-Man comics. She was the fun-loving party girl that served as a love interest for Peter, contrasting the more conventional Gwen Stacy. Now, plenty of fans did not like Mary Jane at first. She was a woman that knew her own worth, and she wouldn't fuss if Peter had to cancel on her, and she would shift her attention to guys that would actually make time for her, like Harry Osborn. And some didn't like the whole frenemies routine with Gwen, where MJ would be openly antagonistic towards her. This panel is straight up savage. However, after Gwen's tragic death, MJ became the focus of Peter's affections, especially as she was shown to be a more complex 3-dimensional character than we were first thought to believe. And from that moment on, Peter and Mary Jane were endgame. Sure, they had their ups and downs, like her rejecting Parker's initial proposal, but they did end up tying the knot eventually, with Marvel even hosting a real wedding between the two of them in real life, with Stan Lee officiating. I love it. But when Joe Quesada took over as Marvel's editor-in-chief, he made it his mission to break the couple up.
From the very first day I was in the EIC chair, I made no secret of the fact that I felt that a married Peter Parker wasn't the best thing for an ongoing Spider-Man universe. The problem was that we never had a decent methodology to get ourselves out of it. I always said that if we ever found a way to do it, I would pursue the avenues to get us there.
That's how we got the aforementioned deal with the devil. And look, regardless of if you agree or disagree that Peter is more interesting as a single dude, there is no denying that this left Mary Jane in a state of limbo. MJ's entire identity in the comics revolved around her relationship with Peter, and Marvel struggled to figure out what to do with her when they were broken up. They had her be Tony Stark's assistant for a while, and there were plenty of moments where it seemed like she and Peter were going to get back together, but readers knew not to get their hopes up. So when Nick Spencer's run kicked off in 2018 with Peter and MJ dating again in the very first issue, fans were shocked. Even more shocking than Ryan Ottley's art making them just look like Mark and Eve from Invincible. This relationship was everything that fans have been begging for years. Mary Jane even got character development by having her join an anonymous support group for the friends and families of superheroes to help her cope with Peter's double life. And I just gotta say, I love the idea of a support group in the Marvel Universe. It's just a damn shame that it was only around for these 3 issues, because not only does it make a lot of sense from a world-building perspective, but I think it's ripe with storytelling opportunities, like maybe have an espionage storyline where a supervillain goes undercover to try and get all the information they can on the heroes and like blackmail them or try to hunt them down. I don't know, I think that would be neat, but I digress. Everything was going well in Peter and MJ's love life. Maybe too well, because just when Peter was getting to the point of proposing, Mary Jane had to leave New York for a couple of months to film a movie with Mysterio, because comics. It's obvious that Nick Spencer wanted the two of them back together, especially in this scene where Parker talks about how he doesn't want to let MJ slip through his fingers again, but Aunt May assures him that they were meant to be. Yeah, sure. But when Mary Jane got back from her shoot, Peter was in the middle of dealing with some serious shit, like all of his friends and allies turning into monsters, again, because comics. And then Peter was in a coma for a while. Because soap opera. But finally, after all of that was said and done, Peter and MJ were finally able to catch their breaths and take the next step in their relationship by moving in together. Only to be greeted by a golden glowing dude and bring us into one of the most hated periods in all of Spider-Man history, the era of Zeb Wells. This is the Emissary, an evil mathematician that Zeb Wells had Peter briefly fight when he was writing the Spider-Man comic back in 2008. Well, to kick off Zeb's new run, he had the Emissary return and get his revenge on Spider-Man by sending Peter and MJ into an evil alternate dimension where they met Paul, a scientist that has been living in this hellscape for years. And oddly enough, this might just be a reference to the folk band Peter, Paul, and Mary. By combining their knowledge and skills, Peter helps Paul create a device that could get them back home. The only problem, though, is that they were attacked mid-escape, and as a result, only Parker could make it out. To make things even worse, time works differently over there in the alternate dimension, so Peter was scrambling for his life, wasting no time to craft an interdimensional suit to rescue Mary Jane. And Paul too, I guess. Parker ripped through the superhuman community, stealing the components that he needed, because even taking the time to explain a situation and ask for permission would just be wasting precious seconds, and who knows how long that would translate to over in the other dimension. In a matter of days, Peter completed the suit, with the help of Norman Osborn, who's a good guy right now, don't worry about it. But during that time, 4 years had passed in the dimension, and not only did Mary Jane and Paul fall in love, but they adopted a couple of lost children, and they forged a strong family bond as they survived the world's trials and tribulations. So yeah, it's great that the love of her life was suddenly back, but Mary Jane couldn't just abandon her family, and she decided to do the right thing and stick with them. This, however, sent Parker's life into a tailspin, and fans hated it. Even the mere mention of Paul would be enough to send a Spidey fan into a frenzy. But okay, Mary Jane is clearly not getting back with Peter anytime soon, but she's such a long-running and beloved character that it would be ridiculous to just write her out of the comics. So what happens? Well, that takes us back to Mary Jane's identity crisis. What could her role possibly be if she's not dating Peter? Well, turn her into a damn superhero, of course. Okay, so while they were off in the other dimension, Paul built a device that could randomize symbols of power like a slot machine to grant its wielder a randomly generated superpower. And despite being absurdly jacked in this panel, it was decided that MJ should be the one to handle all the fighting while he sits back as the guy in the chair. And once they're back home, it's revealed that their kids were actually constructs of the Emissary and they fade away from existence. Hey, would you look at that? 2 nickels for Mary Jane having dead children trauma, and 2 nickels for Marvel doing the whole magic artificial children thing. 20 cents. Looking for something to fill the void of her lost motherhood, MJ remembers that with great power, there must also come great responsibility. And so she uses the device to become the hero, Jackpot. This was not the first time that Marvel had used the superhero identity. In fact, the entire point of the original Jackpot is that she wasn't Mary Jane. See, MJ disappeared from comics after the demonic hospital copay, and when this hero showed up with cherry red hair, constantly referring to Spider-Man as Tiger, and her codename being an obvious reference to the first line that she ever said to Peter, the iconic "Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot," we as the readers were supposed to go, "Oh hey, it's Mary Jane, that's cool." I mean, hell, she must even sound similar to MJ, because even Peter first suspects that this is the woman that he was canonically in a relationship with for years. But no, this character was a woman named Alana Jobson, who bought the Jackpot persona and superhero license because this was like right after Civil War, so they needed licenses, from her friend Sarah. And Sarah modeled the entire look and the name Jackpot after Mary Jane because she was a big fan of her role in a soap opera where MJ decided to bring that "Face it, Tiger" line into that. But then Alana died, which prompted Sarah to take up the mantle of Jackpot once again. Look, convoluted history aside, Sarah retired from being Jackpot years ago, even going so far as to move away and change her name, which means that it is totally fair game for MJ to take up the persona for herself. But what's weird is that at no point are Sarah or Alana ever brought up, or the fact that there was ever a Jackpot or 2 before MJ. And don't try to tell me,
"Oh, well, they were unpopular superheroes, so Mary Jane probably just didn't know about them."
because MJ once dressed up as Jackpot for a Halloween party, so it is pretty damn clear that she knew that she existed. And that is what bugs me most about Jackpot. The whole point of the character is that she wasn't Mary Jane. She was a fake out, a joke, a red-headed herring. So Marvel just recycling the idea and making her MJ anyway feels less like an exciting new direction and more like Marvel was scraping the bottom of the barrel. Now look, I know that I've been complaining, but I'm not trying to say that Jackpot was completely terrible. Far from it. The idea of a randomly generated superpower is a neat concept, and I love comics like Dial H for Hero, which do the exact same thing, so it would be hypocritical for me to say otherwise. There's fun gimmick powers, like MJ piloting a massive teddy bear like a JoJo stand, badass powers like becoming a fire angel, and the god mode of the 777 Mega Jackpot. Or she could just turn into slime. But for as enjoyable as the random element can be, there's a reason why Dial H is not one of DC's most popular titles, because it's a shtick that gets old fast. Likely due to fan backlash, MJ abandoned the Jackpot persona after getting tangled up in Al Ewing's Venom War event, where some symbiote goo bonded to her power machine, making each role more and more dangerous, eventually landing her on the negative Jackpot that MJ hoped that she would never hit. Triple Skulls, a painful death where Mary Jane was completely unmade one atom at a time. During this same event, Venom was reduced to a shambling puddle and was going to die off without a host, so it bound itself to Mary Jane and is physically holding her form together, fusing them on the molecular level, so that if they're separated, both of them will die. This means that Mary Jane's identity crisis has led her to becoming the all-new Venom, and it sucks. Because Venom isn't just another supervillain to Mary Jane. He is the one that left her the most scarred. MJ hates Venom with a burning passion, and the move to make her be its new host spits in the face of that history. By this point, the majority of comic fans know that the black suit was originally just a gimmick for the Secret Wars event, but there were rumors about it before the comic even came out, and despite not even seeing the design, fans decided that they hated the idea of Peter getting a new costume. Man, folks getting upset over comics they haven't even read? The more things change, the more they stay the same. To try and appease the fans, Marvel came up with the idea of the black suit being a symbiote, and they set in motion a storyline for Peter to get rid of it. The only issue, though, is that once the black suit actually debuted, the fans actually liked it, because yeah, it's sick as hell. But this led to a new problem, because you see, once all the fan mail started coming in, the writers were already in the middle of the storyline where they were getting rid of the costume. So now, to appease the fans, again, Marvel gave Spider-Man a brand new version of the black suit, but this time, it was made out of cloth. And for a few years, Peter would swap back and forth between the black suit and the classic red and blue as a way to try and make everyone happy. Great. Now, what does this have to do with Mary Jane? Well, meet Todd McFarlane. He was the most popular comic book artist at the time, and when he got a chance to take on Spider-Man, he didn't want to draw the black suit, period. He only wanted the classic red and blue. So he and writer David Michelinie came up with a plan to get rid of it once and for all by turning the symbiote into Venom as we know and love him today. You know the story by now. Eddie Brock went to kill himself at the same church where Spider-Man bonged off the symbiote, and the two of them bonded to get revenge on Parker. Venom for Peter abandoning it, and Eddie for Parker exposing his fake news story. One of Venom's first targets was Mary Jane, and she was traumatized from the encounter, experiencing severe PTSD flashbacks from even the sight of Peter's black costume, demanding that he return to the red and blue for good. Readers were never actually shown how things went down between MJ and Venom. She says that he didn't physically hurt her, but that was retconned years later in the book Venom Dark Origin, written by Zeb Wells, oddly enough, showing the visceral details like Venom hoisting Mary Jane up by her hair and slamming her to the ground. So after Venom War concluded and Al Ewing launched the all-new Venom series as a whodunit mystery where the gimmick was having 4 suspects of who the next Venom could be, naturally, nobody suspected that it was the one character that has severe trauma over the damn thing, and, who I might add, was not one of the suspects in the damn first place. Now, the idea of all the suspects being red herrings could have worked, especially because one of my favorite things about mysteries is how a good writer can sprinkle in clues so that the reader can reasonably figure it out on their own. And maybe I'm just dumb, but I didn't see any hints or clues for the reader to conclude that Mary Jane would be Venom, which is wild because I was already spoiled and knew that it was her before I had the chance to start the book. So if there was any foreshadowing, it should have been pretty clear to me. The lack of setup takes away any enjoyment from the mystery aspect, because shocking twist reveals do not inherently make a story good. The reveals need to have at least a little foreshadowing, because if you're not even going to bother to put in the work for the mystery, then why have one in the first place? When you specifically look at the relationship between Venom and Mary Jane, the most interesting element is that trauma, and how their partnership would work now that they are physically bound together. But because the entire first half of the comic is wasted on a mystery that went nowhere, and then the next few issues are spent explaining how we got there in the first place, that fascinating and interesting character dynamic doesn't get explored until the last issue. At the time of this recording, it looks like MJ's time as Venom is about to end, and like there's gonna be a storyline where the symbiote takes over as Spider-Man or something. I don't know, but regardless of where it goes, it doesn't change the fact that Marvel is throwing every gimmick at Mary Jane to try and see what'll stick. And said gimmicks just reek of being temporary changes that'll get undone, and that makes it difficult for me to care and get invested. But hey, at least the all-new Venom comic finally had MJ and Paul break up, so thank God for that.
And, I'm sorry about the whole breakup thing.
Ha, no you're not.
You're right. That was a lie. But I didn't see it coming either.
Ah, Jesus. All of my problems with how Mary Jane has been handled over the years is one of the reasons why I love the alternate universe Ultimate Spider-Man comic written by Jonathan Hickman. In this series, Peter gets his powers as a full-grown adult, where he is already married to MJ and has 2 kids. Their relationship is so damn healthy, which is something that you never see from superhero comics. It's a marriage that's built not just on love, but on trust and communication. They are not the perfect couple, and of course, there is sometimes tension between the two, especially as Peter's life as Spider-Man puts them in more and more complicated situations. But at least from my perspective, it proves that a married Spider-Man can be interesting if written well. Does that mean that I think that he and MJ have to get back together in the main comics continuity? Not really. Like, at this point, the damage is done. Forcing Mary Jane to get back with Peter will not magically undo the decades of poor writing decisions. And if Peter is going to get hitched again, really, it should just be to a new love interest entirely. The problem with Mary Jane isn't whether or not she's married to Peter, it's that Marvel keeps treating her like a problem to solve instead of a person to write. She doesn't need slot machine powers, and she sure as hell doesn't need a symbiote. She just needs to be Mary Jane Watson, the interesting, driven, and compassionate woman that Peter and readers fell in love with all those years ago. Just read Ultimate Spider-Man, it is so damn good. But anyway, if you like this video, then why not consider subscribing or even watching another one? And if you want more Spider-Man videos, well then, I got an entire playlist with every single one of them right there. So hopefully you learned at least a little something new, and hopefully I'll see you next time.